everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you the worst books of 2024. So these are always my favorite videos to do, kind of looking back at all the books that I read over the course of a year. So I've already filmed and you'll already see my best books of 2024 video, which I'll link up here. But basically it was overall a generally positive reading month overall, or reading year, I should say. And so it was a little bit, there were kind of a few standouts. And so overall I have 6 books here that kind of just weren't great. There's only one star book, and the rest are a mix of 2 and 3. So overall I wouldn't say they were like overall terrible, they just weren't my cup of tea. And they're all over in terms of genre too, which I think makes it, fun. And so without further ado, let's get started. Starting up, I have The Mask of Mirrors, and this is a book that I read earlier on in 2024, and this is one that my then fiance, now husband, read, and he said he really enjoyed, but I think it is just the fantasy that is not for me. Like, I can't even figure out a way to describe it, but it follows this girl who kind of goes to the rich part of the city and pretends to be a long lost cousin for this rich family, and so she's trying to kind of smuggle her way in, or skis her way into this family to get money, while there's this kind of Robin Hood like character running about. And it just was way too long. There are definitely elements of this that I really enjoyed, but it was just really confusing. I remember in particular a main character ends up dying, but because it was written so, there was so much jargon, there was so much confusion within the writing itself, that I didn't even realize this character died until a couple pages after the fact. That's how confusing the writing was. So I just think this isn't the series for me, that type of fantasy. I can see how some people, my husband in particular, really is into those really heavy sci-fi and fantasy reads, and I think this one just wasn't my cup of tea. I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars because there were elements of it that I really enjoyed, but it was just overall too jargon heavy and just not my cup of tea. Next, I have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This book I gave a 3 out of 5 stars because even though there were aspects of it that I really enjoyed, overall it was just a disappointment for me. I really loved the setting. There were elements of this I really enjoyed, but it was just felt very lackluster. I was wanting something more, and this place takes place during I want to say in the 1700s, where we follow this girl who has this magical capability, and she tries to hide it from the woman she works for, but the woman she works for as a servant discovers this, and she tries to exploit this, and she gets kind of recruited to participate in this competition for the crown, basically. And this one, like I said, had elements of it that I really enjoyed, and there is kind of a romantic-y element to it as well, but there was just something lackluster. Like I said, there was something missing. I was expecting more, especially from Leigh Bardugo. I felt like, especially Leigh Bardugo in particular, is really good at writing, characters and building these character relationships and these characters that seem lifelike. In this case, they felt very two-dimensional. They just fell flat for me, and so I was just really wanting more. I really enjoyed kind of the last couple pages or so to kind of round out this book. That's why I did give it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I just was disappointed. I felt, I was just wanting more, and yeah, it just kind of fell a little flat for me. Next, I have Graveyard Shift by M.L Rio, and this book was a major disappointment for me. I love If We Were Villains. I think that was one of my favorite books of 2023 when I read it that year, and so this is her newest book that has come out, or novella that has come out since then, and so I had high expectations. I really loved the writing style in there, her characterization, all those things, kind of similar to Leigh Bardugo, and this follows a group of people that kind of see each other late at night, kind of day to day, when they all go and smoke in the graveyard together, and they're not necessarily friends, they're just acquaintances, and there's kind of this mystery that's kind of unraveled, and it goes from there. And there are elements of this I really liked. Each chapter is kind of told from each of the characters' perspectives, and some, again, were more interesting than others, but I just really couldn't get into it. I was really disappointed by this one. My husband also really loved If We Were Villains, and I told him, don't bother with this novella. It wasn't really that good. I just felt like it was rushed. There could have been maybe and it ended so abruptly. I felt like there could have been maybe an additional 20 or 30 pages just to kind of add to the complexity of it. And the solving of the murder took place so fast. You kind of get this build up and then it just kind of ends abruptly, and I was just wanting more. So I was overall kind of very disappointed by this one, which I'm a little bit sad about, but I hope she comes out with a novel that is maybe a little bit, you know, better than this one. Next, I have To Sir Philip with Love by Julia Quinn. I started kind of marathoning the Bridgerton series this year, and this one was one I was looking forward to the most because Eloise, the character on the TV show at least, is my favorite, and I definitely have been loving the books a little bit more because we kind of get more of the ensemble cast that I think the TV series is known for, and I felt like the books, especially for the couple, you know, first ones, were very much kind of really just focused on the couples, and you don't really get that, you know, family dynamic that you do in the TV series. And I was really excited for this because Eloise, at least in the TV series, is my favorite. But this one was just really disappointing. I really hated Sir Philip, and the only reason why I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars is just for the Bridgerton brothers scene. If you've read this, you'll know that was the only thing that was, you know, worth getting a star for. But I was just really disappointed in this. I feel like even the books as well, Eloise is very, you know, sure of herself, and this one we really see kind of Philip kind of manipulate that. I didn't feel like he was a really, you know, great character, a great love interest. He's incredibly flawed, but it's okay to be flawed if you kind of get that character development. He kind of stays the same. He doesn't really, you know, change his way of thinking, all those things, and just like it made me cringe. And so I'm really, really hoping when they tackle Eloise this season, you know, 10 years from now, that they kind of address these things. So like I said, I was kind of left disappointed with this one. It was not great. I definitely will continue on with the series because they are just easy books to kind of throw in when I need a break from kind of, you know, harder hitting, you know, fantasies or historical fictions. But yeah, this one was just really bad, and I was really disappointed. The only one star read of the entire year. Next, I have The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke. This book I gave a 2 out of 5 stars, and it was a short story that I picked up when I was trying to get to my 50 pages or 50 books in 2024. This was just a kind of a short story to read to kind of add to that tally. But it kind of is a very short description of this girl who kind of is a little bit weird as she's walking through the woods. I really love the description of how woods are described during winter time, and just kind of this, how they seem silent, but all these things are going on at the same time. I really love that description. I think that was my favorite part. But in terms of the story, if it was an allegory, if it was alluding to something, if there was some biblical reference, it was just over my head. So I don't think I was the right audience for this. I did really love the illustrations and, like I said, the description of woods during kind of the winter time, but I just don't think I was the right audience for this one. So I was a little bit disappointed. But I just think Susanna Clarke is an author that is just hit or miss for me, because I really love Pure Nessie, but I wasn't a fan of Jonathan Strange or Mr. Well in this one too. So I guess this just was one that wasn't my cup of tea. And lastly, I have Heartbreak is the National Anthem, which I gave a 2 out of 5 stars. And this is a book that I was so excited about. I'm a huge Swiftie, have been since basically the beginning, from the first time I heard our song. So I'm one of like the OG from the beginning Swifties. And this one was the promise of this book was that it would be discussing how Taylor Swift has redefined what being a pop artist is, and how did she become essentially the global sensation that she is today, like what makes her different than anyone else. And I felt like the description of this book was not what was promised, basically, or what was executed. It was just a little bit confusing in terms of the author talks about kind of more his experiences with, you know, he remembers when he was in New York City listening to Red, or all these things. So he kind of inserts himself more into the conversation than actually, you know, discussing the album. And, you know, he does touch on like certain themes or things that are kind of carried around through her writing, but he doesn't necessarily tackle why Taylor Swift, you know, is like the global superstar that she is today. So I felt like that was very disappointing. And I think if you are a Swiftie, if you are familiar with the, you know, the Swift lore, then I don't think you really get much out of this. So it was just more disappointing, I think, because I felt like what it, you know, says it will do the execution was not there. So it was just overall disappointing. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your worst books were of 2024 and all that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.